Hey guys, this is Alex, and today I'm doing a showcase on my upgraded Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice Batmobile. I'd first like to start out by saying I'm sorry for holding this video off for so long. I've actually had this same Batmobile for I think over a year now, and whenever I did make a showcase of it, just small details weren't working out and I never posted a video. Even though I promised you guys I would in my last Batmobile video. But the important thing is that I'm here today, so this is my showcase on my upgraded Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice Batmobile. So this is my Dawn of Justice Batmobile, and it's an upgraded version of a Batmobile that I made in a previous video. I'll put the link in the description below for that if you guys want to check that out. But it's an upgraded version, and I'd just like to start out by saying sorry that this isn't a proper studio. This is just some paper, and I'm sorry if the video is not high quality or the lighting's bad or something like that. So anyway, I'll start out by giving you a quick 360 of this Batmobile. So that was just a quick 360, and yeah, I'm sorry I don't have a turntable for that, but I think I'll start out by telling you about the whole thing. First of all, this is nowhere near minifigure scale, as you can probably tell if you've been playing with Legos for even a short amount of time, and I'll just show you how big it is in a second. So this is a Batman that I'm using right now. It has a colored head that I made. It's actually, see, so it's just colored on top there, and you know, that might look a little goofy, but I think it's pretty good considering it was done by Sharpie. So yeah, I'm just gonna put him next to it, and you can see that the side of the Batmobile is like a wall to him. So yeah, that's pretty big, but the reason I made it this big is because I wanted to put in detail, and that's also why it's bigger than the last version. I actually elevated the floor quite a bit, a few studs, almost a whole brick. So yeah, how about we start with the front? So if you watched my last video on this, you can probably tell I've made quite a lot of changes in the front. It's actually where I made the most changes. So you can see that first I've got this hood piece and then the vents down here. Getting it to split in the middle right here like the real Batmobile does was kind of tough, so I just ended up settling on putting one black cheese slope there. And another change is these two pieces. I'm not quite sure what they're called. I'm pretty sure what they do though. These are supposed to fire those tiny missiles or rockets, so enemy missiles hit those instead of the Batmobile. They show it in the movie, but sorry, I'm not quite sure what those are called. Another change is these headlights, and it actually took me a little bit to realize that these were the actual headlights, not these yellow ones down here. At first I thought those were the headlights, but then I saw the movie and then paid attention, and then I was like, wow, so those are them. Because, I don't know, I thought it would look just fine if, you know, these yellow ones were the headlights. I thought that would work fine. But it turns out, if you look at the pictures that you know, the movie people released, these are actually quite small. I tried to mimic them, but you know, I think it's a pretty good job. You can also see that the front turret, or mini cannon, whatever you call it, I've added these two black Technique pins to give it a little more, I don't know, muscle, you know, just to make it look a little more armored. And I haven't taken these glow-in-the-dark pieces out yet. I'm thinking of taking them out because they're actually kind of useless, to be honest. And oh yeah, these two headlights right here, this is probably the part that I like most about this Batmobile, because they're headlights and they're also the model's weapon, or MOC, sorry. And so yeah, you can probably see that I'm using the new stud shooters for this, and you know, just two trans white studs right here. And so you can actually fire these off like that. Sorry, one just fell on the floor. So firing off your headlights doesn't sound like a very smart idea to me, but it's just what happens. So yeah, I do think that these stud shooters are like a perfect, I don't know, they're like the perfect pieces to put these right here and to give it the whole headlight look. And I think that turned out really well, even though on the real Batmobile these lights are a lot smaller. So yeah, that's the front. And well, these, you know, these pieces of armor on the tire, nothing really so new about those, just the, you know, the same flapping as before. I did add a few extra clipping pieces to fix it being so delicate. So this is actually quite sturdy now. I've also kept these turntable pieces on the tires so that doesn't easily come popping off, so that's good. And yeah, so moving to the middle, so you can probably see, if you saw my last video, that the wall right here is actually, you know, the side right here is actually a lot higher than it used to be compared to my previous Batmobile, and that's because I elevated the floor a few studs. And well, that was to give it a more of a bulky look, and I think it accomplishes that, only it's a little bit too high now. And if you look at it from the side like this, I don't know, it just seems kind of out of proportion to me. But you know, that's the few cons in a lot of pros that this has. So looking at it from the top, I really like this look because it kind of captures the whole Batmobile feel to it. Oh, and this is also a windshield piece. This is actually from a really old Luke Speeder set piece. I just put this sticker on that I made. It looks shiny because I put some tape on top of it, and so, you know, even if it gets wet, it's not really going to get ruined. So I think that's quite an improvement from the last Batmobile. It also doesn't fade as easily now, so that's good. And yeah, so I know in the movie this isn't how it opens up, but I think it gives it a good look. So yeah, and then moving on to the back, so you can see that I've changed this part quite a bit too, this armor on the wheels, and I'm going to show you how I did that in a second. And I also may be making a video on how to make this. I'm not planning on it, but I just might, because I'm planning on breaking it. And yeah, well, I'm planning on breaking it because this Batmobile uses a lot of really valuable pieces, and you know, they're good for making different things, like these pieces right here. These are really valuable, and all these black pieces. So yeah, I'm thinking of breaking this, but you know, so because I might be making a video on how to make it, but that might take a while. And to be honest, I'm kind of a lazy type, so I may not. So that's just a heads up for you guys. And so for some more armor, you can see I've added these flaps like Lego did with their version. Oh, and I'll just give you a quick comparison of my version and Lego's version. So yeah, you can see I've added a few changes to here, like these front light pieces and you know, these black rims, and well, I don't really need to show you this, but the cable in the back, you know, just things like that. So Lego's version, they did a very good job on making it minifigure scale and you know, scale proportion wise very well. You know, it's really sleek and small, and you know, in the general shape it looks a lot more like the real Batmobile, but the only thing that I don't like about this version is I think they left a little too much detail out. Like you know, I can understand like this top part right here, because if you don't do that, you can't really move it up that far. And I do really like that Lego used these two pieces here, made new actual pieces for that. I wanted to add them onto this Batmobile, but if I tried, but it just ended up making it look more bulky, too bulky, so I just didn't. So yeah, that's just your quick comparison. And yeah, so back to the armor plates right here. You're probably wondering how I did this. It's actually quite, I don't want to say complicated, but it wasn't exactly easy either. So you can see, if you've been playing with Legos for a while, you can probably tell that these are built in sideways, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So I'm just going to flap this open. Yeah, that's just an ordinary tire in there. So I take that out, and I take this other pin out right here, and then this whole piece just gently comes out. So that's actually a piece that I used, you know, that just flaps inwards, and that's where the tire would be. So I really do like how I did that, you know, using a few different building styles to make this. One thing I also want to point out, you're probably wondering why I put that right there, but what I realized over the years is that that stud right there just sticks out the tiniest little bit, and that tiniest little bit prevented this you know, this part right here from breaking off like that, you know, just breaking off and sliding out. So I thought that was really smart, and I do like how I did that. So I'm just gonna put that back on. It's quite simple actually. So yeah, so just like that. And also the back is the part that I like the second most, because it, just like the front, you know, looking at some of the pictures that you know, the movie people from Dawn of Justice released, the Batmobile, like, you know, you had these close-ups and it looks really big and dramatic and cool, and I think my Batmobile kind of captures that, and better than Lego. Not trying to be competitive here, but you know, I just think it kind of captures that dramaticness, and the same with the back. Now I know that these two, whatever these are, stabilizers or suspension system things or whatever, are supposed to be above this little exhaust thing, which is also another thing I changed from my last Batmobile. But I think it's a pretty good job, and I'm definitely quite happy with how the back turned out. You know, it really shows off these big wheels, and you got those vent things, and I think how I built it just comes together really nice. I also used these, I don't know if you can see that, but they're armored pieces. You can probably tell what those pieces are. yeah, so I really like how I built that. Sorry if the lighting is a little bad and it's hard to see, but anyway, so that's one of the also the major changes that I made. And the top, I'm not quite sure what these are. I don't know if they're just fins, or like Batman, the older comics had like Batman fins, so they just replaced those with these for this newer Batmobile. But I do think I mimicked these a little better. I didn't change these parts. In my last video, you probably remember me saying how I did this. I used this clever technique of using these jumper plates, and they just fit on perfectly to these studs right here. And that's a really neat trick when you're trying to build at an angle but not use any like hinges. Excuse me. So yeah, I'm still using that, and I put some of these tiles here to give it more of a sleek look. And yeah, so the top hasn't really changed. For those of you who watched my previous video, you may remember I had some windows right here, but with how I built it, it doesn't have that now, so you can just look in to who's there. With the camera you might not be able to, but if you're actually sitting here with me, then you could see the people inside. Like you can see you know, that orange right here. And this can still seat 2 minifigures, and that's one of the things that I really like about this Batmobile, because in pretty much all the Batmobiles you can seat 2 people, but the versions Lego makes you can only seat 1. And you know, I guess the person who drives it is Batman, so there's really no need to make it a 2-seater. But you know, if you want to fit someone like Robin in, this is just an example character I'm using. You know, this is a Hobgoblin with that pumpkin mask. My brother calls him Pumpkin Man. So he's like a made-up superhero. And so he's just sitting in there to demonstrate. So yeah, 2 people can actually sit in there, and I'll give you a good look at the interior. I changed a few things, but for the most part it's pretty much the same as before. I've still got that, I'm not quite sure what that's called, but I just kind of consider it a light, because you're not going to be able to see very well in the Batmobile if the light's only coming through here. So yeah, that's a thing I added in. And I still have that Batman mark right here. I kind of thought about changing it to the newer, you know, Dawn of Justice Batman mark, but if you make this mark really small, then it's kind of hard to tell it's a Batman mark, so I just figured I'd stick with that. And yeah, so the seats are fairly simple. You've got some slope pieces and these grilly pieces, and down here you got the jumper plates. Yeah, so if this jumper plate technique to fit 2 minifigures into a 6 stud space seems familiar to you, that's probably because of the new Lego Batman movie Batmobile. And I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I actually had this Batmobile like maybe 2 years before that set came out. So but I'm just using 1 stud here because I don't want to have trouble removing the minifigures, you know. So the inside control panels are pretty much the same from last time. I've still got that joystick and the control panel from the Lego Batboat set, and I've still got that same control panel too, and his black steering wheel. Sorry if this is a little hard to see because it's all black, but yeah, so, and there's also a control panel behind this steering wheel. Maybe you can kind of see the clips that's holding it, but to show you that I have to remove this piece right here, and I don't really feel like going through the trouble. So yeah, I've also kept, you know, a little bit of the trans blue accent. I took the part away right here where it used to be a trans blue stud, but then kind of went along with what Lego went along with for their Batmobile version. So yeah, so this part's still pretty much the same. And I believe that is about all for this Batmobile, and the main reason I'm making this is so that I can use this for other pieces, so don't go getting mad at me for that. And yeah, so oh, and one thing I wanted to point out is for my last video back here, instead of having this detail, I just put a simple tow cable like back here. This is actually the exact piece that I used on my old Batmobile right here, and at the time I didn't know that the actual Batmobile in the movie had that. So I thought that was kind of like a like a lucky thing that I had. So yeah, I believe that is all, and that was my Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice upgraded Batmobile. So that was my Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice Batmobile. I hope you guys liked it, and one thing I want to say before I sign off is I will not put this on Kuso. In my last video I said that I might, but I'm just telling you guys that it's not going to happen. Sorry about that. And like I said, I may make a video on how to make it. If I do, I'm probably going to do it now, right after I'm done making this video, because I've got this whole studio thing set up. So yeah, so if you like the video, then you can like it, and feel free to comment your thoughts. Subscribe if you want to know when a new video of mine comes out, and thanks for your time. See you later.